I was having y'all, your boy Rico from StreetScores, and even though it's late at night, it is 4 a.m., but I've just been super busy with the most random stuff. But either way, I'm finally coming to y'all with a Commanders versus Baltimore Ravens game preview. You already know I'm coming with the keys to victory, the most important matchups, all kinds of advanced stats and charts. I'm coming to y'all with a final injury report as well. Are we potentially about to be on upset alert? Let's disappoint everybody that thinks the Ravens are about to just win this game. And I also have my score prediction at the end. You may be surprised, but before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Of course, I will be live streaming this upcoming game against the Ravens. I ain't put in all of this work to break down how we're going to beat them, to not have the fun and live stream the entire game, play-by-play analysis, all types of deep analysis throughout the entire thing. And again, like I've been saying all week, the reason I've been staying up so late is that I've been adding so many different sounds, effects, and images and graphics and videos and things for my reactions during the stream. So you're about to basically see a whole differently, entirely experience of the Commanders StreetScores stream for this upcoming game against the Ravens. I felt like this was the perfect time to upgrade the channel's production. So let's get it. I'm excited. Make sure you pull up there. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's go ahead and start with some of the most random, but still fairly important info. Let's just go ahead and get that out the way. First of all, Jim Nantz and Tony Romo will be calling the Commanders-Ravens game, just to let you know. Of course, the game is still going on at 1 p.m. because CBS was not letting that go to another network so it can get flexed. They were not having that. They spent billions of dollars, and they got lucky with this game actually ending up being a great game to watch. A lot of people are going to be tuning in, and they're not going to give up that lucky opportunity. They didn't go into the season expecting, ooh, Ravens, Commanders, we're going to get a lot of views and money and advertisements and things off of that. And now that they lucked up on it, why would they give that up? Also, right now, the Commanders versus Ravens game is the hottest NFL ticket leading into Week 6. The prices went up 232% since the season started on TickPick. The cheapest ticket before the season was $91, and now the current get is $302 right now. That is a crazy increase right there, and that should just let you know all of the hype that's going on. Also, if you look on the screen right now, here's a map of where this game will actually be played on local TV, and thank goodness me in Atlanta finally gets a Commanders game on live TV for the first time ever. I mean, unless we're playing 8 p.m. and we're the only team playing, I was never getting Commanders game. But now that we're good, now we actually get them, because I'm pretty sure if we were going into this game 1-4 and people just assumed that the Ravens will beat us by 20+ points, Atlanta, it probably wouldn't be this much red on the map is my point. I probably would be getting this game. So even though we weren't able to flex the game, at least it's available in more regions because more people are going to care about this game. I feel sad for the people that are forced to watch that Indianapolis versus Tennessee game, but that's what you get for being in those areas. And then Houston versus New England, I mean, again, that's you for being in that area. That's your fault. Then LA Chargers versus Denver, same thing. That's your fault for being in that area. Same thing with Pittsburgh versus Vegas. I'm pretty sure if anybody that's not a Washington Commanders or Baltimore Ravens fan, or if you're not a fan of either of these 10 teams that you're looking at right now, you prefer to watch that Commanders versus Ravens game when you wake up for Sunday. So I'm just happy that I'm finally getting it. Shouts out to the fact that Atlanta's even getting it. We're the only game that's being featured on local TV outside of our regions. This game literally is only taking place between two teams basically in the state of Maryland, and we reach all the way down to Miami. So I think that's big time. But let's go ahead and move on, man. Also, Jaden Daniels said on his draft night, quote, I want to play against Lamar, unquote. And I just think that it's amazing that it's about to happen within less than 48 hours. He was literally asked who he wants to play the most when he gets to the NFL level, and then he immediately got Lamar Jackson put on his schedule, I think back in May when the schedules came out. And then now this matchup actually looks like a really good one. When he first said it, I was like, oh boy, I can't wait for you to go against Lamar. But with that team looking like around you, now it looks like we may actually have a good duel going. Now, speaking of duels, I mean, of course, the biggest matchup matchup here is Jaden Daniels versus Lamar Jackson. Now, granted, it's not like Lamar Jackson is out there playing corner against Jaden Daniels or vice versa, but still, when Jaden Daniels is on the field on offense and when Lamar Jackson is on the field on offense, they're basically going head to head, even though not directly. So let's take a look at some stats. First of all, when you're looking at quarterback EPA in man versus zone, they are both elite quarterbacks, especially when it comes to zone coverage. Honestly, because Joe Flacco has barely played this season, and I guess you can give him his credit, but either way, you know, if you're a Ravens fan, you're ignoring Joe Flacco. If you're a Commanders fan, you don't care, because Jaden Daniels is #1 against the zone out of all quarterbacks in the NFL. It's crazy when you look at that chart. And then even when you look at man coverage, yes, CJ Stroud is the best at man coverage, but Jaden Daniels is second. And at the same time, even though Jaden Daniels is second versus man coverage, he's way better than CJ Stroud is at zone coverage. So honestly, in my opinion, I prefer to have Jaden Daniels looking at this chart than even CJ Stroud looking at this chart, because Jaden Daniels isn't average at either. And you know, CJ Stroud is below average against zone. Jaden Daniels is elite at both, #1 at one and #2 at the other. Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback you see on this chart right now. But the reason I bring this up is because, again, this is a great duel. The Commanders are forced to run more zone than we want to because we don't necessarily have the man cover corners that we want just yet. It's probably going to take another offseason worth of draft and free agency to do that. So we probably will play quite a bit of zone against Lamar Jackson, especially since you want to run zone against a running quarterback, so to make sure you have as many eyes on him running as possible. And Lamar Jackson is third in efficiency, EPA versus zone coverage. So that's something we definitely need to watch out for. But he's also not that. He's basically right average against man. Maybe we should run a little bit of man against him, but at the same time, running man against a running quarterback is not fun. Now, moving on, here's another chart that shows the excellence of both Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson, and why this future duel on Sunday at 1 p.m. that I'm going to be live streaming is going to be a fantastic one, because Jaden Daniels is easily the best quarterback in tight window throw open rate, and then Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the NFL at tight window percentage. Now, granted, I would prefer to be Jaden Daniels on this chart, because all that simply says is that Lamar Jackson is constantly throwing into tight windows. That's just his bag. He throws in the tight windows more than anybody else, and that's a good thing because he doesn't necessarily have a lot of turnovers, so that means that he's successfully completing a lot of those passes. But on the other side, that's kind of looking like, okay, are you just not seeing the open receivers? Are your receivers not getting open? Why are you having to throw it into tight windows that much? I prefer to be Jaden Daniels on this chart, where you're #1 in tight window throw open rate. So these guys are in tight windows, you're throwing them open, which means you're making your receivers better. Jaden Daniels is the best in the NFL at that. So again, Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels, and Lamar Jackson's second, not to, just completely ignore him there. But again, another chart that shows that these are two arguably the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL right now. Speaking of the two best quarterbacks in the NFL, look at this stat. So quarterbacks this season with 1,000 passing yards and 200 plus rushing yards right now, you have to have at least 1,000 passing yards and at least 200 rushing yards. You have to have both of them. Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson are the only quarterbacks to do that in the NFL so far through these first 5 weeks, just to let you know. So this is going to be really exciting. And right now, Lamar Jackson has Jaden Daniels beaten slightly in both passing and rushing yards, but it's not by a big, wide margin. Also, moving on to another chart, when we're talking about elite quarterbacks versus single high coverage and two high coverage, that two-man coverage that even Mel Kiper was saying that the NFL needs to get rid of because passing was down, and he was blaming the two-man to two high coverages, basically. And right now, Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback easily in the NFL, even if you include Joe Flacco's small sample size, but you still have to have a minimum of 70 attempts. So, Joe Flacco's played enough to at least be on this chart. But Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFL versus single high coverage. If you only have one safety back there, Jaden Daniels is the best in the NFL right now at taking advantage of what a defense is giving you with that single high coverage. Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the NFL against two high, but at the same time, Jaden Daniels is second best. So Jaden Daniels is either #1 in all quarterback efficiency stats, and if he's not, he's at worst #2. Whereas Lamar Jackson may be #1 at something, Jaden Daniels is #2 right at that. But the thing that Jaden Daniels is #1 at, Lamar Jackson is not #1 at. So if anything, I'm giving Jaden Daniels the edge right now. Speaking of giving Jaden Daniels the edge, but again, these are two of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Another graphic that shows that is from Pro Football Focus right here. Here are your highest graded quarterbacks on 10 plus yard throws this season. Joe Burrow's #1. Then you have Jaden Daniels tied with Brock Purdy, and then you have Lamar Jackson right behind them in 4th place. And then another chart, instead of Pro Football Focus, this is Pro Football Network, and you're looking at passer rating under pressure. Joe Burrow's number 1 again. Jaden Daniels is number 2 again, even though last time he was tied with Brock Purdy. This time he sits alone at number 2. And then Lamar Jackson, instead of being 4th, is 6th at this. So shouts out to Joe Burrow for being number 1 in both of these charts, but shouts out to Jaden Daniels for being number 2 in both of these charts, and that most importantly for this matchup, ahead of Lamar Jackson. Also, speaking of Joe Burrow being number 1 in the past 2 stats that I just showed y'all, man, I know that Ravens defense is sick of the fact that they have to go from elite quarterback to another in back-to-back weeks, man. And even though they never really figured out Joe Burrow for real by the end of that game, just imagine being them going from elite pocket passer to another elite pocket passer that can also run like Lamar Jackson. I know that Ravens defense, I'm pretty sure they're hyped about the challenges they're about to face, but back-to-back weeks going from Joe Burrow to Jaden Daniels just cannot be fun. There has to be a headache there, at least from their defensive coordinator. Also, shouts out to Jordan Giorgio for pointing this out. This is the battle of the quarterbacks in Baltimore this Sunday. So another breakdown of how this is an amazing duel coming up. Both of them are Heisman Trophy winners. Both of them are first round picks, even though Lamar Jackson barely made it. Both have 1,000 plus passing yards and over 300 rushing yards this season. They're the only 2 quarterbacks to have that, like I showed y'all earlier. And also, both of them are top 5 in the current MVP odds. This is literally the game of the week for that exact reason. Now, of course, we're comparing Jaden Daniels to Lamar Jackson a lot right now based on what they've done so far this season, but you've also had a lot of people comparing Jaden Daniels to Lamar Jackson leading up to this game, and Jaden Daniels has heard it, and he was even asked about it. He said, I don't like when people try to compare me to Lamar. We're 2 different people. I agree. He also said at the end of the day, I want to be known as Jaden Daniels and not the next such and such. I agree with both of them wholeheartedly, but especially that second one, man. If I'm Jaden Daniels, yeah, that's a good compliment, but man, how about I'm the next me? Like, that's how I would feel, but that's just me. That's just always been my personality. I've always been, man, I'm the next me. Don't compare me to nobody else, man. I mean, I see what you're trying to do. I appreciate the compliment you're trying to give, but at the end of the day, man, I'm just the next me, man. I'm not him, man. He's him. So I love that. I really appreciate that response. And you know another reason why they aren't the same? You could even make an argument that Jaden Daniels is better, because first of all, Lamar Jackson's first 5 NFL starts. Look at this right here. Shouts out to Ref the District for providing these stats. 58.4 completion percentage, 600 yards, 86 rushes for 427 yards, 5.0 yards per attempt, 5 total touchdowns, and 4 total turnovers. Whereas Jaden Daniels, through his first 5 starts, 77.1 completion percentage, blows Lamar Jackson out the water. Also, nearly doubles Lamar Jackson's yards, and especially passing wise, and then rushing wise. Yeah, Lamar Jackson had more yards than him, but the passing yardage and total yardage is just completely unfair. Yards per attempt, he also beats them there. And then also more touchdowns and less turnovers. Jaden Daniels is off to a way better start than Lamar Jackson was through his first 5 games. So if you want to stop comparing Jaden Daniels to Lamar Jackson, there goes the reason right there. Or how about Jaden Daniels through his first 5 starts compared to Lamar Jackson this far into his career? Not rookie Lamar Jackson. We're going to compare rookie Jaden Daniels to adult Lamar Jackson, veteran Lamar Jackson. Right now, ignoring Lamar Jackson, but he's included in this, Jaden Daniels is number 1 out of all quarterbacks in the entire NFL in EPA plus CPOE. He's first in adjusted EPA per play, and also just straight up first in EPA per play as well, out of all quarterbacks in the NFL. Matter of fact, again, to compare rookie Jaden Daniels to veteran Lamar Jackson and every other quarterback in the entire NFL that's a veteran, anybody can get it. We're not just talking about guys through their first 5 games of their career. We're talking about right now, where everybody is right now. Look at this chart right here. Jaden Daniels is just straight up the best quarterback in the NFL so far through the first 5 games. So if you want to stop the comparisons between Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson, it's because Jaden Daniels has literally played like the best quarterback in the NFL so far through 5 weeks. And I can't wait for him to show people that it hasn't just been the defenses he's faced, that when he goes out there and balls out against this Ravens defense, I can't wait. Also, shouts out to the Ravens defensive coordinator, Zach Orr. He talked about Jaden Daniels a couple of days ago. He said, quote, "We don't look at him as a rookie. We look at what we see on film, and we see one of the top quarterbacks in the league," unquote. I completely agree. You are definitely right there. Now, moving on to the next matchup. Well, first of all, we got to talk about why this is about to be a high-scoring game. This is about to be a shootout, and it's not even just the quarterbacks. It's also what the offensive coordinators are doing, everything. Just in totality, right now the command shouts out to Cooked by Tech for these stats right here from Twitter. He said the Ravens are 31st in the NFL, allowing 280.2 yards per game passing, and the Commanders are 13th with 214.2 yards per game allowed passing. Then you have the Ravens lead the NFL in rushing yards per game with 211.2 every week. The Commanders are the weakest stat. That's the weakest stat defensively, is rushing defense, 130 yards per game allowed, which is 22nd overall. Also, the Ravens run defense is no joke, only allowing 60.4 per game, first in the NFL. The Commanders are averaging 178.4 yards per game, second in NFL, only behind the Baltimore Ravens. They also have 13 rushing touchdowns, which is first in the NFL. So right now, the Ravens run defense is the first in the NFL, but the Commanders run offense is second in the NFL by yards and number one in the NFL by touchdowns running the ball. So, you know, it's one of those things. This is that matchup alone. Our run offense versus their run defense is the unstoppable force versus the immovable object argument. Which one's going to give? I can't wait to see. Also, speaking of points, how about the most total points so far through the NFL through first 5 weeks? The Washington Commanders are number one with 155, and the Baltimore Ravens are second with 147. And so another big matchup, of course, speaking of that run game, who will stop whose run game and force the other team to be one-dimensional and pass the ball a lot, especially if they fall behind? Because shouts out to my boy Jamal at Let Maul Tell It. Make sure you follow him on Twitter and his Trap or Dive podcast and YouTube channel. Make sure you follow him on everything. He pointed out the fact that the Ravens and Commanders are the top two teams in NFL in rushing attempts and yards. Right now, the Commanders are first in touchdowns, fourth in yards per attempt. Ravens are fourth in touchdowns, first in yards per attempt. That's, I mean, the literal reverse of each other, both very elite at what they do when it comes to running the ball. Also, the Ravens also already have 598 yards rushing after contact so far through 5 games this season, so we gotta tackle. Also, shouts out to Mina Combs because she brings up a good point. She said Washington almost exclusively matches 12 personnel with nickel. That could be a problem against Baltimore, who have been fantastic running the ball with their 2 tight end sets. That has been a weakness of ours, and Mark Bullock quote tweeted that. Make sure you follow him from the UK. There's a lot of great film breakdowns for the Commanders. He said, very good point. Washington has struggled to defend a lot of the run schemes that the Ravens literally use themselves. That's the big matchup that the Ravens will be looking to attack. That's arguably our biggest weakness right there, that the Ravens will try to take the most advantage of. Washington has refused to play a base defense all year. I suspect we'll see big nickel more often versus Baltimore, which is a good point, because on top of that, Derrick Henry specifically, at 30 years old, still leads the league in rushing yards with 572, rushing touchdowns gained with 30, yards after contact with 244, and broken tackles with 11. And even at 6'2", 247 pounds, how about he has the 5th fastest play this season out of anybody in the NFL when he was tracked at 21.46 miles per hour on that 51-yard run against the Cincinnati Bengals last week. That is scary stuff. So this is where potentially finally getting rookie linebacker Jordan McGee back could be a huge help for us right now, man. We need him because we need an extra defender out there. We need our extra defender outside of the typical 4 defensive backs and 2 linebackers that we go out with to be a guy that can both stop the run and not be a liability in coverage, can cover well, because right now we typically play with a 5th defensive back out there instead of a 3rd linebacker. That's going to be a big problem trying to stop that Ravens run game. So hopefully Jordan McGee can be the type of guy. The reason that we keep a 5th DB on the field rather than a 3rd linebacker is because right now our biggest weakness technically is coverage, but we're kind of helping with coverage and allowing the run game to beat us. So statistically the run game is our weakest point, but honestly it's technically our coverage. Hopefully Jordan McGee can solve both problems in one body. That could be an important chess piece right there, but he is a rookie that hasn't played since the first preseason game that he got hurt in, so don't expect him to just come out there and immediately start balling out, but that could be a big time help. Also, shouts out to Zach Selby for pointing this out. He said Bobby Wagner said that there's no real way of completely stopping Derrick Henry, but the Commanders can develop a strong tackling plan to bring him down before he really gets going. The Commanders do have some hard hitters like Quan Martin, Jeremy Chin, and Frankie Louvu, but even that won't probably be be enough. As Henry has shown, he can handle one defender by running them over, stiff arming them, or outrunning them. So the entire defense will need to be involved in some form. And you know how our defensive linemen tend to hustle to get down the field to help with the tackle? We're going to need that from them a lot, potentially. And I'm not going to lie, though. I do still feel like we have arguably the best run game in the NFL, but at the same time, the Ravens defense is the best, specifically not only just stopping the run, like statistically, they're the #1 run defense right now in the NFL, but also they're the best at stopping the run specifically without having to stack the box out of any of the opponents that we faced so far this year. Like the Browns, for example, even as great of a defense that they are overall, in order to try and stop our run game, which still didn't technically work at the end of the day, but they stacked the box and played man coverage. They had extra guys willing to stop the run, and then they left guys on islands against the pass. And as a result, Jaden Daniels had to step up, put his big boy pants on, and make some NFL throws in the passing game. But with the Ravens, they are good at stopping the run while still having a lot of guys in coverage as well at the same time. So this will really be a true test to see if Jaden Daniels is really a top 5 quarterback, because just matchup wise, things will be harder for him against the Ravens than it's been all year, even with that very talented Browns defense. And the Ravens defense overall has not been anywhere near as good as they were last year, but schematically, that's still a problem. The fact that they can stop the run with just 4 guys, maybe 5, instead of like 7 or 8, which it took the Browns to do, that is a problem. But also, to be completely honest, while people are looking at the Commanders like, man, y'all have never played a defense this season that can stop the run without stacking the box, I'm personally looking at the Ravens like, well, y'all haven't faced a run game this elite, complicated, creative, and efficient yet. So while a lot of people are looking at Jaden Daniels like this will be the game where he falls back down to earth and looks like a rookie, I actually think that the Ravens run defense will be humbled instead. We'll have to see, but I just think the Ravens haven't gone against a run offense as effective as ours, and maybe they will not be able to stop the run with just 4 or 5 guys. Maybe they will have to do what the Browns did and switch up their whole scheme, because we can run the ball that well. I can't wait to see which one gives. And also, just overall, the Ravens offense is better at gaining rushing yards, like I pointed out earlier, but the Commanders offense is better at scoring rushing touchdowns. It's really a matchup of the Titans when you really think about it that way, like the greats at specific things, and a lot of the same things that the Ravens are elite at, the Commanders are as well. This is a better matchup than a lot of people think. Also, another important matchup is the Washington Commanders passing offense versus the Ravens passing defense, because right now, shouts out to Ref the District for this one, the Ravens are #1 versus the run, only giving up 60.4 yards per game, but they are 31st versus the pass, giving up 280.2 yards per game. So this is the time for Jaden Daniels to expose that passing defense, because even though they do a great job of stopping the run without having to stack the box, that even with all of that extra coverage, other teams still have been chewing them up, and again, they are the 31st pass defense, even while not stacking the box. The only reason the Browns were so bad against the pass is because they have to stack the box to stop the run. I don't know why the Ravens defense is so bad at stopping the pass, because they don't stack the box. Also, another matchup, the Washington defense has to get off the field on 3rd downs, and we have to convert ours on offense, because right now the Commanders defense did vastly improve on 3rd down this past week against the Browns, going from dead last in the league in 3rd down conversion percentage allowed to 23rd after holding the Browns to 1 of 13 attempts on their 3rd down attempts last week. And my main point is that it's really, like, honestly more of a question, if anything. Did the Commanders defense actually improve that much, or was it just because the Browns offense was that bad? To be honest, I'm pretty sure it's like a mix of both, but we're gonna find out real quick against the Ravens which one actually played the largest percentage. I'm hoping that the defense just actually got that much better, but I only want to really focus on our defense when it comes to 3rd downs. We really got to focus on that, because our offense is elite at it. Like, when it comes to 3rd down offense, we're crazy. Defense, still a little bit of a worry. They passed the test against the Browns. I got to see if they pass the test against the Ravens. And just like how our defense has a big test against the Ravens offense on 3rd downs, hey man, the Ravens defense has a huge test as well against us on 3rd downs. Right now, we're #1 on 3rd down conversion percentage on offense. Even above the New Orleans Saints, who are 2nd, and we convert almost nearly 52% of our 3rd downs. And on top of that, even if you do stop us on 3rd downs, good luck stopping us on 4th downs, because right now we are tied for 1st in the NFL. It's only us and the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills who have converted all of our fourth down conversion attempts this season. So good luck stopping us on third down. We're the best third down offense in the NFL, and then we're also the best, tied for the best fourth down offense in the NFL because we're literally perfect. Matter of fact, if you want to look at how crazy the difference is, here you go with this chart right here. This is insane stuff right here. So when you're looking at passing and rushing efficiency so far in this 2024 season, and we're talking about third downs, fourth downs, all of that type of stuff, right now we are the best offense in the NFL on late downs. And it's not even close. This chart should show you everything you need to know. Again, the Ravens, you know, still a little bit of a problem. You can see them right there wedged in with the Cowboys a little bit. You know, they're in that top right quadrant, which means that they are pretty good. If you're in that top right quadrant, you're one of the better teams in the NFL on third and fourth downs with your offense, but nobody's even in the stratosphere of the Washington Commanders is what I'm saying. So yeah, maybe we're worried about Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry on third downs and things like that. I'm sure the Ravens are more worried about us than we are about them in third down situations, but we'll see. Also, while we're talking about our defense and what they need to do, we definitely need to get after Lamar Jackson and bring him down, dog. We have to. And that's the ultimate easier said than done right there. But at least they practice against Jaden Daniels every day, every week. So maybe they will be better prepared than most defenses that the Ravens have faced. But that's still nearly an impossible ask of the defense to consistently get after Lamar Jackson. But even if you can't actually bring him down, unlike Baker Mayfield and also unlike Jaden Daniels, who has been a top 3 quarterback under pressure this season, when it comes to Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, his accuracy, which normally ranks 19th at 65.3% on a normal play, drops all the way down to 44% under pressure. And thankfully for us, we are actually elite at getting the pressure on the quarterback. Like specifically week 5 wise against the Browns, if you look at this chart right here, we had 2 linebackers at 1 and 2 and an edge rusher at 8th in Dorrance Armstrong as far as the best, most efficient guys at getting pressure on quarterbacks in week 5. But I know, yeah, that's just one sample size. That's just 1 week. How about the entire year? Well, even there, the entire year, Frankie Louvo and Bobby Wagner are both tied for first in the NFL in sacks among off-ball linebackers right now with 3 each. Also, looking at this chart right here, Dante Fowler is also great. If we're looking at the last 3 weeks, just weeks 3 through 5, and I granted we're excluding weeks 1 and 2, but I think that is important context because this is a very new team. I feel like we deserve to kind of throw out weeks 1 and 2. Look at how different this defense is playing weeks 3 through 5. This offensive line has been playing weeks 3 through 5 compared to how we were weeks 1 and 2 in different facets of the team. I mean, we were the newest team coming into the season. So if anybody has the right to just say forget weeks 1 and 2, I think we're more so as a team moving forward. We get a better indication of who we will be based off of if you just look at weeks 3 through 5. I think we deserve that. And Dorrance Armstrong is tied for 4th in the NFL at pressure rates, and Dante Fowler is 8th. And I feel like that's just them getting into their grooves, learning the defense. The defense is learning them as well. Joe Wood Jr. is finding the best ways to deploy these guys and putting them in situations to win. I feel like that's more so of who we are than what we were in weeks 1 and 2. And I think that's what, most importantly, that's what we'll be against the Baltimore Ravens. Also, shouts out to Ryan Cooley for this one. While Louvo and Wagner have been getting a lot of love, Dorrance Armstrong's pass rushing has flown under the radar. Right now, Dorrance Armstrong is 8th in pass rush win rate. He's 7th in pass rush grade, 20th in pressures though, but tied for 9th in sacks with 4. I'm telling you, he's only going to keep getting better and better because that includes weeks 1 and 2 where he basically was non-existent. And then also as an overall team, we are 9th in pass rush win rate from our entire defensive line. So maybe we have an advantage there because our O-line is actually playing at a very high level. So I don't really expect Jaden Daniels to be under a lot of pressure, to be completely honest with you, because the way that they did Myles Garrett, let's just talk about that first. I mean, Myles Garrett had 31 pass rushing snaps, only had 3 pressures and 0 sacks. The Ravens don't have a pass rusher like Myles Garrett. You could even argue that they don't even have a Trey Hendrickson, who the Commanders did a pretty good job against, who had 1 sack against us, but that was a different Brandon Coleman than the Brandon Coleman now. He's better now going into this Ravens game than he was a few weeks ago going against the Bengals. I can promise you that. And so if they can do that to Myles Garrett against the Browns, I can only imagine what they could do against this Baltimore Ravens defensive line, who does not have a Myles Garrett on it. And then speaking of our offensive line, when you're looking at pass protection ratings composite, the Commanders are 11th in the NFL. When you're looking at like Pro Football Focus, you include Sports Illustrated and ESPN, their overall score when it comes to pass protection is the 11th best offensive line in the NFL. But at the same time, I know you do see those Ravens up there at 3rd. So we'll see, man. This is a battle of great offensive lines as well. These are good trenches going against each other. Speaking of our offensive line, just single-handedly, Tyler Biadasz among all centers this season is 2nd in pass blocking grade. He's had 175 pass blocking snaps and only has 1 pressure allowed, no sacks. That's elite stuff from your free agent center that you just signed. He's only going to get better and better as this offense understands him better and he understands the offense better throughout the season. A lot of these teams are basically the same teams that they were last year, like who we played with the Buccaneers, like who we played with the Bengals for the most part, like who we're about to play with the Ravens. Whereas the Commanders, week 1 compared to what we are now is a completely different team, because a lot of these other teams are literally the same people that they were last year. So we're on the up and up. Everybody else is kind of stagnant. We'll see how it goes, how it plays out for the rest of the year, though. The Ravens better be lucky they caught us in week 6 rather than week 12. But we're not even going to get into that right now. Also, I do want to point out the fact that this is an extremely new offensive line that, maybe it took them 2 weeks to get themselves right, chemistry-wise, but in weeks 3 through 5, again, we're going to limit it to just weeks 3 through 5 when it comes to lowest pressure rates allowed. Tyler Biadasz is 3rd, and Andrew Wiley is 7th, tied for 7th out of all offensive linemen in the NFL. These guys don't allow their quarterbacks to even get pressured since week 3. Again, I feel like that's a better representation and indication of what we're going to be into the future. So I believe in these stats more than if you look up what they've done the entire season, including weeks 1 through 2. But that's just me, though. Look at it however you want to look at it. And also, if we're talking about just run blocking instead, because we're elite at pass blocking, right? Brandon Coleman is tied for 3rd in highest run block win rate. I think Jaden Daniels will be fine, because you also have to add into the fact that our tight ends and running backs are elite blockers as well. And now in recent weeks, our wide receivers have even started to buy in and have become great blockers as well on the outside. So I'm thinking Jaden Daniels is going to be good to go. He'll be able to probably sit pretty in that pocket, even prettier than he did against the Browns. So I'm super excited about that. Also, going back to more duels, just like Jaden Daniels versus Lamar Jackson, high-powered offense versus high-powered offense. Speaking of the offenses, you also have my Georgia dog and Todd Monken. So this is kind of like a bittersweet situation right here. And also versus my dog, our dog, Cliff Kingsbury, man. Let's get it. So if you look at the screen right now, when you're looking at scripted versus non-scripted EPA per play, Todd Monken is the best at drawing up a script, like those first 15 plays of a game, where typically they already know what they're going to do leading up to that game, and regardless of what the defense is showing you, these are the plays we scripted before the game even started. We're gonna run these plays. Todd Monken is one of the best in the NFL at that. And don't ignore Cliff Kingsbury, because he's like top at least 8 at that still as well. Top 5, it looks like, maybe even though it's a really close race, he's like top 5, top 6, I would say. But when it comes to after the script is done and you've had time to analyze what the opposing defense is doing, what they're trying to do, what they're showing you, what they're allowing you to do, and things like that, Cliff Kingsbury is first and by far the best offensive coordinator in the NFL at making sure his offense consistently succeeds and is efficient when it comes to the script is done. Now everybody knows what each other's trying to do, and it's time to make adjustments. It's time to make changes. Cliff Kingsbury has been the best at that in the NFL, and I love to see it. Also, another chart. When you're looking at passing and rushing efficiency, right now the Washington Commanders are first in both drop back per with EPA per play and rush EPA per play. So yeah, the Ravens may have us on some surface stats that you can easily look up, but when it comes to the advanced statistics, we even have them beat when it comes to running the ball as well. We have everybody beat when it comes to running and passing the ball when it comes to efficiency right now, and I'm absolutely loving it. Now granted, the Ravens are in 2nd when it comes to rush, and they are still top 5 when it comes to the pass, but they're not number 1 in both by far as well like we are. So I know this is a big battle, and a lot of people are saying, ooh, that Ravens offense, that Ravens defense, but they're still not our offense, dog, at least through the first 5 weeks. And also, I think it's time to break another crazy streak again, because remember how we ended their preseason winning streak? Well, how about this one? In Lamar Jackson's last 9 NFC matchups, he is now 9-0. He hasn't lost to an NFC team, and I went and made sure I looked it up to make sure to back this up. I'm not just taking anybody's word for it. I looked this up myself. The last time the Baltimore Ravens, led by Lamar Jackson, has lost to a team that plays in the NFC is 2022 against the New York Giants. That was a super upset. I remember that way back then. Everybody was surprised, just like how people were shocked about the Raiders beating the Ravens just a couple of weeks ago this season. It was the same thing with the Giants beating them in 2022. That is the last time Lamar Jackson has lost to an NFC team. That's probably the longest streak going out of all AFC quarterbacks right now. So just like we ended their preseason winning streak that set a record, let's go ahead and end this one before it starts to become a record. Also, moving on, shouts out to Lake Lewis for pointing this out. For the 4th time this season, last year's Heisman Trophy winner, quarterback Jaden Daniels, will be going up against another quarterback that won the Heisman as well. You had Baker Mayfield in 17, Joe Burrow in 19 from week 3, Kyler Murray week 4, he won it in 18, and Lamar Jackson week 6 now, won it in 2016. Just to let you know. So Jaden Daniels has gone against a lot of Heisman winners. He's only lost to Baker Mayfield right now, and I promise you, like I said earlier, even for the Ravens point, I promise you if we played the Buccaneers next week, I feel like we would win that game. I feel like we're a way better team than we were back then, and they're pretty much the same team because, again, they're literally the same team they were from last year, so they had no chinks in the armor. They had really not much chemistry issues. It was more so just like warming back up and knocking off some of the rust that they had from having an entire offseason and not playing football for a few months, whereas we're trying to figure everything out on the go. So I just feel like we play the Buccaneers again, I feel like we will beat them, to be completely honest, but it is what it is, though. We're going to go out there and beat the Ravens, and it's cool. Now, for a big-time injury update, who's out, who's questionable for both teams. If you look on the screen right now, our only out, sadly, is my dog, Tyler Owens. I hate to see it, so that's going to be a pretty big loss to our special teams, but we still have a lot of great other guys like Nick Bellore. We have Jeremy Reeves. We have a lot of guys that are going to step up. Our tight ends, Ben Sinnott, is down there making plays on special teams, so I'm not really worried about it, but still get well soon, Tyler Owens, because he's been getting double teamed on kickoffs coverage and things like that. So that's still good. Now somebody else is going to get double teamed instead of him. So I can't wait to get him back there. The questionable, you have the 2 guys who have practiced in full for the past 2 weeks, but they're coming off of IR. We'll see if either of those guys make their season debut against the Ravens, and Jordan McGee and FL Bada. I prefer Jordan McGee, like I've already explained in previous videos, but I'll take FL Bada as well. We only clear one roster spot by releasing Sam Hartman, so I'm assuming we're only going to bring up one or the other between the two. And I'm hoping it's Jordan McGee, but remember, he is a rookie that missed most of the offseason, so maybe he's not ready. And then the other questionable is Brian Robinson, who did not participate in practice at all this week. And I saw a report from, I believe it was Ben Standig or somebody, and the logic to me was he should be healthier going into this week than he was last week. But apparently, from what some of the reporters were seeing in practice and what they've been hearing from Dan Quinn, it sounds like Brian Robinson, for some reason, may be less likely to play against the Ravens than he was against the Browns, which is really weird to me because he only got 7 snaps, got 2 touchdowns off of it. But Dan Quinn said at the end of the game he didn't get any worse injury wise or health wise, so I don't know what's going on. Apparently he'll be a game time decision. We'll see what the final decision is there for that. If I get that update before the game starts, I will do a video and let y'all know. Then as far as everybody else, we're good to go. Nick Allegretti, good to go. Noah Brown returns. It looks like Cleveland Farrell will even return. Percy Butler's good to go. Thank goodness Austin Eckler's good to go, especially with Brian Robinson banged up. Emmanuel Forbes good to go, even only played 4 snaps last game against the Browns. So how many plays against the Ravens? Dante Fowler, good to go, thank goodness. Quan Martin, good to go. And Fedarian Mathis, coming off of the best game of his life, good to go as well, so I'm happy about that. And we did a film session on him that was exclusive to channel members only. If you haven't seen that yet, go check it out if you're not a channel member. And if you are a channel member, and if you're not a channel member, go become one so you get those exclusive film sessions. I plan on doing another one at some point tomorrow, as in later today, as in Saturday. We have all of these great college football games going on, but I'm gonna find some time at some point to do one. And then on the Ravens side, they have more injuries than we do. Like linebacker Malik Harrison, that hurts them a little bit. He's out. Cornerback Arthur Mollett is out. Defensive tackle Broderick Washington is out. Even though these aren't the best players on the team, that still hurts when you lose solid contributors to your team, whether they're starters or not. These guys do matter. And then you have running back Rasheen Ali, who's questionable, but it seems like he's good to go. I'm assuming their guard Salah, Amave Lalu, I hope that's how you pronounce his name, but it seems like he should be good to go, but he's probably going to be banged up while doing it. Wide receiver Deontay Hardy is good to go. Then you have Marlon Humphrey, their #1 corner, arguably one of their best players on defense. He was in a walking boot after their last game against the Bengals, and he at best was limited in practice, so he'll probably play, but he'll also probably be a little banged up, so I'm hoping our receivers can take advantage of that. Then their tackle, Ronnie Stanley, also limited all week in practice, and just like Marlon Humphrey didn't even participate in Wednesday's practice, so he'll probably play, but he'll be banged up. And then everybody else is good to go. Rashad Bateman, their tight end, Charlie Kolar is good. Roger Rosengarten, I forgot that's where he went. He looks like he's good to go. And guard Andrew Voorhees is also good to go. But even the guys that are good to go that are questionable, they seem like they may not necessarily be 100%. So the Ravens are more hurt than us, so there's no excuses on our end, honestly. And then now, let's talk about everybody's predictions. Well, when you look at NFL Network, only Brooks picked us to win. And that's cool. Like, say less. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. Go ahead and doubt us. I prefer it that way anyway, man. I don't like being the overdogs going into a game. I love being the underdogs. I love being overlooked and everything like that. Don't make me an overdog. Make me overlooked. I prefer that every time. That motivates us to go out there and show what we're supposed to do. Now, granted, Brooks only has us winning by 1 point, which is crazy, and then everybody else has us losing all kinds of sort of ways. You even have Wolf over there saying that we'll go in overtime and lose by a touchdown, just like how the Bengals just did, I believe, last week. Either way though, hey man, keep doubting us. And at the same time, everybody's been doubting us. You saw against the Cardinals, only a couple of people picked us to win. And against the Bengals, nobody picked us to win out of these same group of NFL Network analysts. So please keep doubting us. Please keep doubting us. But who's not doubting us is Kay Adams of the Up and Adams show. She said that I think if the Commanders beat the Ravens, such a fun game. Here comes the Jaden's MVP talk. And she said in the video, she gave reasons as to why we may actually end up winning this game. And then even Ryan Clark, even though he picked the Ravens to win, he said while giving his pick in the clip that right now, today, in 5 games, Jaden Daniels is the better passer than Lamar Jackson. Not necessarily saying he's the better quarterback overall, but when it comes to being a pocket passer, even Ryan Clark, who picked the Ravens to win, he feels like Jaden Daniels is the better pocket passer. That may be enough for us to win this game. You also have Raven fans hating, like you have this one Ravens YouTuber named But Aim B. I think that's his TikTok or whatever, but IMB, something like AIMB, I don't know. But he was basically saying he's Jaden Daniels, don't compare him to number 8. He can't throw like 8. He can't run like 8. He can't play make like 8. He was saying that while watching the Browns versus the Commanders highlights. I feel like we just got to go out there and show him. And I'm not going to lie, though, because just like Brooks, I have us winning by 1 point as well. I have us 31-30 with Austin Cyborg making a game-winning field goal from like 47 yards away on a Jaden Daniels-led game-winning like 2-minute drive for like 50 seconds to go after the Ravens just scored, and we go march up the field and go kick a game-winning field goal to win by 1. That's literally how I'm feeling right now. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about every discussing video. Please stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Man, it's crazy. It's 5 a.m. right now. I gotta wake up at 9 a.m. to do a bunch of stuff, but I promise y'all I had to get this video out before I went to sleep no matter what was going on. Promise that, and I'm fulfilling it. I'm gonna try to get a film session out done sometime during the day Saturday. We'll see after I'm done with everything I have to do. But either way, of course, let me know in the comment section every preview video, just like all of these that I do. Please let me know how you feel about these matchups in the game. First of all, do you agree or disagree with any of the points that I brought up? Do you feel like I missed any important matchups or any important stats that you would bring up? Please make me a smarter fan in the comment section. If you can educate me on anything, please. But most importantly, let me know your predictions. Do you feel like the Commanders or Ravens will win? If you pick the Commanders, if you pick the Ravens, let me know which score and let me know why exactly you made that prediction. Especially if you're picking the Commanders to win, please let me know how you think they'll win and why you think they'll win. And of course, do not leave this video without leaving a like button on this video. I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Again, I will be live streaming the game all 4 quarters and all that. And y'all already know the promise, man. If we win, call-in show straight through. We go straight from streaming. I don't even end the stream. We just go ahead and kick it into a call-in show after the game. But if we lose, we'll probably do the call-in show like Tuesday or Wednesday. But I'm expecting us to win. Again, my score prediction is 31-30, Commanders winning. So I'm assuming we will be doing this call-in show on Sunday right after the game. But make sure you stay tuned for that. I'll catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.